So, today, Ben Squeaky Shabibo has released a video about the Australia's COVID restrictions. I'm sure if y'all have been following COVID very closely, or Australia in general, y'all would know that they've imposed pretty, harsh restrictions on the people of Australia when it comes to COVID, and with good reason, honestly, because their stuff is really just spiking. I don't think, if you look at the data, look at the charts, which I will show you a little bit later after the video, or during the video if Ben says something stupid, which he probably will. They haven't had a spike like this since like January of this year, so it's a really big deal, and the Delta variant is there. I don't know if the Delta Plus variant is there, which is even more deadly. It's like a mix of something. Yeah, basically it's very infectious, and they really need to do something quickly. They want to eliminate the virus as quickly as possible. Their vaccinations are not that high. It's very low, actually. But this is not about my opinion, really, about the COVID restrictions. It's really about Ben Shabibo, and then I will react to that. And then I will give you my opinion. But for now, let's just get to the video. I don't want to talk too much. Okay, okay.
Vaccines work. It's safe. It's not political. It's medical. We're honestly tired of seeing unvaccinated people come in sick and have to be admitted.
But it is also true that doctors care for everybody, no matter how they got sick. What this is really about is the politicization.
Okay, that's already BS. They're not doing it because they don't care. They're doing it because they're sick of people who come in unvaccinated and taking up space where other people could be using it. You know how many, like, for example, like cancer surgeries, they've been put on hold. Other life-saving surgeries have been put on hold. You know, other things that people need to go to the hospital for, injuries, anything. That has been put on hold. And you know why? Because these unvaccinated idiots go to the hospital and they take the spots up, mostly because they're unvaccinated, right? And because they're unvaccinated, they get COVID, they get sick, they have to go to the hospital. People who need to go to the hospital for surgeries or whatever, treatment, any sort of treatment that they need, can't get it because of these unvaccinated idiots. So it's not that they don't care about people, they just don't like the fact that unvaccinated, selfish idiots who are unvaccinated, who are stupid, to think that the vaccine is bad or whatever, or COVID's like taking the vaccine is worse than getting COVID, or COVID is not that bad until they get COVID, and then you'll find out. These idiots are one of the big reasons why people who need life-saving treatment, or just treatment in general, it doesn't have to be life-saving, won't get it. And that will harm them. People will probably die of that. People probably have died because they haven't got those things. Because of unvaccinated idiots. Like the Ben Shapiro fans probably are, a lot of them. So yeah, it's not that they don't care about them. It's because they're sick of seeing other people suffer because of selfish, narrow-minded idiots like the unvaccinated people. That's all. Let's get to it, man.
So here's the question, and it's a question that nobody on the left has been willing to answer. So the left wants the right to answer, how many deaths are you willing to take for freedom? And the answer on the right is some, right? Because this is true for virtually all human activity. Here's the thing. Human beings don't tend to think about risk level very often. We don't, right? If you thought about the risk level of driving your car every day, and it were just every day in the media, if you get in your car, you got a 1 in 1,000 chance of dying today getting in your car. If you thought about that every single day, you might not want to get in your car. Maybe like, I'm going to get an Uber, I'm going to get on a bus, right? But you don't think about it. So in your mind, risk is binary. There are things that are risky and things that are not risky. It is not as though you actually sit there and you calculate the risks of all the things. They're just the things that are quote unquote risky and the things that are quote unquote not risky.
I don't know about that, but maybe in daily life people
So
don't.
for example, skydiving. You think of this as a risky activity. I think of it as a risky activity. The truth is, you're probably significantly more likely to die in a car accident than you are to die skydiving. But one immediately goes to, I'm jumping out of a plane. That sounds riskier than getting behind the wheel of a car. So one is risky and one is not risky. In your mind, driving around every day is a risk factor of 0. In reality, your risk factor driving around is significantly higher, depending on your age bracket, and certainly post-vaccination, than your risk of dying from...
Certainly post-vaccination? Well, what if you get COVID and you're driving? You're probably going to kill somebody. That's not really a good point. Post-vaccination, things are way less lower than COVID, trust me. Especially the Delta variant and other stuff. That was a killer.
COVID. Yeah, this is just statistically the reality. Post-vaccination, there's no question. You are significantly more likely to die in a car accident than you are to die from COVID-19 after you're vaccinated.
That doesn't make any sense. What the hell? Let me.
Significantly more, just bracket, and certainly post-vaccination, than your risk of dying from COVID. Okay, this is just statistically the reality. Post-vaccination, there's no question you are significantly more likely to die in a car accident than you are to die from COVID-19 after you're vaccinated.
Yeah, so shouldn't you take the vaccine that protects you from COVID? What's his
And
point?
yet you see vaccinated people who have put living normal life in the category of very risky, living without a mask in the category of very risky.
It is very risky.
And so the question for those people is, okay, so when it comes to freedom, we all recognize in normal areas of life, sort of in the back of our mind, we recognize that there's a risk of death to freedom. Right? Anytime you go to a ball game, there could be a terrorist attack. Anytime you go out driving, you could get in a car accident. Anytime you walk out your front door, there's a risk of something bad happening.
Okay, but the risk is way higher with COVID. So his point is, it's just a risk just like everything else. No, it's not a risk like everything else. COVID's way worse than those things. Because if you get COVID and you're unvaccinated, you're going to be in the ICU. Like now, it'll be terrible. Okay, let's say you personally don't get affected, but you can spread it to someone who already has a condition, like another medical condition where they get COVID, they go to the hospital and they die. Or they just have the ICU and they're struggling in the hospital. And they're taking up space because of taking the space in the hospital, taking a bed, as they call it, when somebody else who needs surgery or life-saving treatment or something else would have needed that bed. And they're only in that position because you decided not to get unvaccinated, so you got COVID and you spread it everywhere. And you yourself will probably end up in the hospital as well. So this is not a good argument. Yes, there's a risk to everything, as he's saying, going in a car, going on the subway, going to a basketball game, going out a party. Everything is a risk, sure. But that's not anything like the risk of getting COVID. That he's equating two things that are not equatable, in my opinion, at all. It's ridiculous.
To you. And we all accept that as part of normal life.
Yeah.
And so the question is,
okay, go on.
How much risk are you willing to accept in order to continue normal life? And the answer is post-vaccination, you should be living your normal life.
Okay. When you're post-vaccinated, yes, you can be a bit more free, for sure, you can be free, but you should still wear a mask. Right? You don't want to spread COVID, you don't want to get COVID, depending on the type of mask you're wearing. And you don't want to, get other people COVID. You want to kill this infection. The faster we kill the infection, the more we can go back to normal. It's that simple. But you can't just get vaccinated and be like, oh, I'm completely immune. No, it's not that simple. Because even, let's say, because there'll be other variants coming around, so, it's best to be safe. Right? It's like when you're driving. Who's more riskier? Like he uses driving example, right? Who's more at risk? A person who's learned their driving, has their license, takes caution, like when you get on a stop sign, you go look, and if you're the first one, you go, or if the other person's first, they go, you follow the rules, you stop at a red light, you don't run the red light. Both those, and then there's another person who runs red lights, who doesn't listen to stop signs, blah, 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 just doesn't follow the rules. Which person is taking more risks? They're both driving, so they're both taking a risk, but which one's taking more risk? The second person, because that person is not following the rules. That person's not using caution or their mind while they're driving. It's the same thing here. You're taking a risk. Sure, after you're vaccinated, the chance of you getting COVID is a lot lower. That's definitely true. Far lower, like 80, 90%. Whatever the efficacy rate of the vaccine you took. Sorry, there's a fly in my face. That's true. But still you can get. So you know what lowers it even more? The mask. And then you don't spread it around. Say, let's say you get it and it's not too bad for you, but you could still spread COVID if you don't have a mask. You understand what I'm saying? So you use your mind and you'll still be safe. But yes, you can go outside as long as you have a mask. That's true. But masks are important. He's trying to downplay it. He's wrong. In the driving example, I just broke it down for. There's still nuance in that example.
Post-vaccination, we should all get back to living our normal life post-vaccination because there is no alternative but to do so. Okay? Otherwise, these are your choices. Get back to normal life post-vaccination or spend the rest of your life masking and waiting for the government to tell you what to do.
That's not true. You can have a mask and still get back to normal life. But this is the new normal. COVID's changed everything. I'm sorry, but you have to accept reality. I thought you were facts and logic over emotions, Ben. But this is the new reality that COVID has presented to us. That we have to have masks. We have to be careful. And the reasons why are very long. And I could probably go on about an hour or 2 hours why we as a maybe as a nation, as a species, we overall haven't handled COVID that well. I think capitalism has something to do with it. I think definitely has something to do with it. The way our systems are set up, it's not great. But that's another video. Or maybe I'll say it in the outro. I'll think about it.
That is it. Those are your choices. For the left, there's no limiting principle. For people who have become COVID crazy, there is no limiting principle to this. For them, I ask a question. What level of freedom are you willing to give up to prevent very small numbers of death? What level of freedom?
4.4 million deaths are not small, Ben. And even if it's not... okay, so let's say you get COVID, you don't die. There are long COVID effects that have been reported now. Right? Like people run out of breath when they run up a stairs, losing sense of smell, having weird dreams. I mean, that's during COVID, I guess. But, you know, things like that. There are things that have been consistently reported. Let me go on Google right now, and I'll show you effects of long COVID. What are the symptoms of long COVID? This is the WHO, by the way. Shortness of breath, cognitive dysfunction, fatigue. Yeah. 3 months, 6 months, potentially 9 months. Yeah. So, again, y'all can read this whole thing if you want. So there are restrictions to... There is long COVID, and we don't know exactly the effects. Do you really want to risk that? Do you really want to risk long COVID? I wouldn't. And I don't think any of y'all should, not just for yourselves, but for your family or, you know, your friends, your society, the world, everything.
In Australia, the answer is all of it. Okay, this should scare everybody in the West. In Australia, the answer is literally all the freedom. Australia is a country of some 25 million people. The Australian COVID death rates, day on day, are like 3.
You better mention the fact that they've had a spike like they've never seen this year.
Australia has been having about 3 deaths a day from COVID. They are having 800, 900 cases of Delta because it turns out you cannot just shield yourself behind Fortress Ocean forever, which is what Australia tried to do. For a year, Australia basically made it that you could not travel into Australia. They basically tried to have a plague city, right? They were just going to cut off all outside contact with the outside world. And then one person entered with Delta, and now they have an explosion in new cases. By the way, they did not bother to get everybody vaccinated because they were so confident in their ability to shut out the outside world that they're
I do agree that they should have vaccinated way more, but that's what they're doing now. They've locked down until they get 80% vaccination rate. But I do agree with Ben that they definitely should have vaccinated way more.
Vaccination rate in Australia. Remember, America's terrible for our vaccination rate, right? We're the worst. We're just awful. Doesn't matter. That vast majority of adults in the United States above the age of 18, like over 70%, have had the vaccine already. In Australia, the number of adults, the percentage of adults who have been vaccinated.
Let me look at the... I don't know if I want to fact check him because I don't trust him. So about half of people have been vaccinated. He said 70%. They said it says 52.2% full vaccinated. Total doses given 364 million. 171 million fully vaccinated. So maybe about like there's another 100 and something million people that have not been fully vaccinated. They have the single dose. That's better than nothing, but it's not nearly where it should be. So America definitely needs to have more vaccinations. It's only 52.2% right now. At least one dose. So right now, let's see. Fully vaccinated, 52%. At least one dose, 61.6%. So he's not being honest here. It's not true. Okay. Not true at all, buddy. Not true at all. Let's look at this. Again, the numbers are going from about 49.6% to 51%. So let's just say around 50%. That's not 70%, Ben. Did you just say that? He just said that.
States above the age of 18, like over 70%, have had the vaccine already?
No.
In Australia, the number of adults, the percentage of adults who have been vaccinated in Australia is about 25%.
That is true. It's a horrible vaccination rate in Australia.
A quarter. They have a huge unvaccinated, vulnerable population. So because of that, Australia has decided they're going to crack down.
And remember, they did the lockdown before the vaccines came out, so that is there. They had to do that.
Say they're going to crack down, I mean they are going to crack down. So here is a little bit of tape from 9 News in Australia talking about the measures they are taking. This is full authoritarian lockdown with no limiting principle in sight.
There's little sympathy for anyone ignoring the health orders, even this group of teenagers caught partying after dark at the bottom of the North Bondi Cliffs. Herded to higher ground by Polaire's spotlight and speaker, the 8 boys were placed in handcuffs and left to explain a $1,000 fine to mum.
681 penalty infringement notices issued in the last 24 hours. More than 400 of those notices were again for people being outside of their home without a reasonable excuse.
Okay, this is dystopian insanity. They've locked people in their homes in a country of 25 million people for
Okay, they're not going around going locking everyone's doors. They're just saying stay inside or you get fined. It's that simple, right? Otherwise, how the hell did those teenagers get out if they went around locking people in their homes? It doesn't make any sense. So, like, what I'm saying is, yeah, that should happen, dude, because the spike. What he hasn't mentioned, let me show you all the data. WHO, they don't do that well. Here. Daily, I mean, their graph is not as cool looking. Let's look at this. Daily new coronavirus cases in Australia. Showing the daily count of new cases reported by states and territories. Most recently, they may show incomplete data. Last updated 26/08/22. Okay, so let's not look at the 26 because it's still incomplete. Let's look at 25, 24, and look at this. Okay, so look, January 25th, nothing. Big spike in March. 459. Big spike in July 17th. Okay, of last year. Remember, this is when I think they was tracking this. So it's been pretty good, and then boom. Look at here. Around June 30th onwards, it's been going up, bang. So this is why they did the hard lockdown. They're not doing some crazy authoritarian lockdown because they want to take away your rights. It's because the spike is the highest ever since they've been tracking it at January 25th of last year. It's almost 1,000 new cases in Australia. That's much more than they've ever been able to deal with, and it'll overwhelm hospitals and ICUs and stuff. So this is good that they're locking down. Of course, and they should find people. This is not authoritarian, this is simply being responsible. Alright? That's all it is.
3 to 4 deaths a day. Okay, and they've locked them down. They're locking them down for weeks over there. They outlawed protests, by the way.
3 or 4 deaths a day. Okay? But it's not just about the deaths. It's about the fact that people who get, long COVID effects and things like that. Let's look at the deaths per day. Okay, so at one point they did have 59 deaths per day. So they do have a total of few deaths. That is true. But still having that many COVID cases is really bad because, of like I said, the effects of long COVID, the fact that they could spread it, and again, look, they haven't tracked it past August 25th. Okay, August 25th, 2 to 3 deaths. So they have. That's still really bad, though. Not the deaths, but the fact that the amount of cases have gone up. Like I said, long COVID, deaths could start jumping up now. Who knows? You really want to risk it? You don't want to risk it. You really don't. Like I said, and it's terrible to get COVID. And you could have long-term effects and stuff. I've said that enough times.
In fact, we were told yesterday on the program by a journalist from Australia that they have outlawed even saying things in favor of protest in Australia. Because that would be promoting...
very nice anecdotal evidence there. I haven't seen anything of that evidence of saying no protest. You can't even say the word protest or say to protest. No, that's bullshit.
Breaking the law. So what kind of tyranny are you willing to undergo in order to never get back to real life and avoid all risk forever?
It's not about...
And then you're going to have to ask another question, which is how much pressure are you willing to bring on the unvaccinated in order to get them to vaccinate? Again, in order to protect their own lives. So there's a story on MSNBC that was making the rounds yesterday. 75 doctors claimed that they walked off the job to protest the unvaccinated. In reality, that's not really what was happening. Apparently, what was actually happening is they exited the building to encourage people to get vaccinated, which is fine, right? You want to encourage people to get vaccinated, that's fine. MSNBC covered it as though these doctors were saying that they did not want to care for the unvaccinated. Okay, here is a little bit of the tape from MSNBC.
And as I step out here, I can see they're all standing here, white jackets, some coming off of their shifts. Your thoughts about why it's gotten to this point that people are gathered like this?
We feel that people think it's political, and it's not. It's medical. I have all my colleagues behind me, and we're all here as physicians to say one message: vaccines work. It's safe. It's not political. It's medical. And we're very passionate about it because we're honestly tired of seeing unvaccinated people come in sick and have to be admitted.
Okay, so the way that the left covered this is their suggestion was that the doctors were refusing to care for the unvaccinated. And there was a lot of talk in the media about how we should be triaging in favor of the vaccinated over the unvaccinated, as opposed to triaging based on who's most likely to survive in a crisis scenario, which is usually how you triage, right? You actually look at the health conditions of the people.
Yeah, but you don't want to make those choices anymore. Like, this is not, oh, we have to make choices between who lives, who dies types. No. If you're unvaccinated and you're being selfish and you're infringing on other people's freedom by taking away their ability to go back to a normal life, like Ben said, or getting them COVID and having them die or have the effects of long COVID and feel like horrible, well, then you shouldn't get treatment. I don't think you should, because if you don't care about the lives of others, why should we care about your life? Simple.
Underlying, is it an 85-year-old with terminal cancer, or is it a 30-year-old who's generally healthy but has the disease and now can be triaged? Right? The attempt here is to suggest that people don't deserve medical care if they're unvaccinated. Now, I've said that if you're unvaccinated, that is on you. But it is also true that doctors care for everybody, no matter how they got sick. Right? If somebody wheels a person into the ER who was shot in a gang duel, in a bout of gang violence, the doctors don't say, well, they kind of brought it on themselves. They were in a sort of gang violence scenario. I guess I'm not caring for this, but that's not what doctors do. If somebody comes in and they're morbidly obese and they've been told by their doctor for literally their entire life that they need to start eating healthy and lose weight, and now they have heart disease, the doctor isn't like, well, I did tell you shouldn't do that. Right? That is not how medicine is.
Okay, those two scenarios are very different from COVID. All right? In terms of shooting, it could be the shooter's fault or the person could have been shot first. You don't know the full details of the situation, so you can't make that judgment. And now with the morbidly obese person, that person might not go to that doctor. They might go to another doctor, and that doctor won't know that person's history, but they will treat them. And even if, yes, they morbidly obese, blah, 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 are they harming anyone else but themselves there, Ben? Other than themselves? Yes, what they did was wrong and they should have listened to their doctor. Very true. But you still treat them. This is different because these are people who are not only harming themselves, but they're harming everybody else. Not just in their society or in their local neighborhood, but in their and around the entire world. Unvaccinated people are hurting. Now, obviously, situations are different around the world. Sometimes the government just isn't doing a proper job of vaccinating. That's there. But specifically, let's talk about America. And there are a lot of those people who refuse to get vaccinated, even if they can. Those people are not the same as the examples you gave, Ben. Because the examples you gave, especially the morbidly obese one, the other person is not harming anyone. And the gang violence thing, you do not know who shot the other person. First, you don't know the context behind what happened, so you can't really make a judgment like that with no information like that. And the morbidly obese person is not hurting anybody else. So no, those two examples are not equatable to COVID, man. They are not.
Is practiced. And I find it rather dystopian and scary that there are people on the left who are saying this sort of stuff. People on the left are saying this. They're saying if you're unvaccinated and you come into the hospital shouldn't treat you. I'm amused to see, however, many people on the left say things like, if you come into the hospital unvaccinated, you should be responsible for your own medical bills. That I'm in favor for. I'm in favor of that, except not with regard to vaccination and not vaccination. I'm in favor of that for everything. We call that a privatized medical healthcare system.
Yeah, because you're a freaking rich sellout. You're sold out, and they're paying you to say this stuff. Because you want people to be crushed by medical debt and get and medical bankruptcy. So yeah, I'm not surprised there.
Right, in which you are responsible for your own health. Okay, but again, what this is really about is the politicization. I'm amazed to watch people on the left say that the right is politicizing this.
Yes, you are.
No, when you have Dr. Fauci saying it doesn't matter what mask you wear, you just need to mask up post-vaccination everywhere. And when you have Joe Biden saying you need to mask your kids every time they leave the house, and when you have Joe Biden saying your business should tell people that they cannot work for you if they...
Yeah, these are all reasonable positions because we don't have a vaccine for 12 and under. So yeah, kids need to have masks.
They're unvaccinated? Who's making that political?
That's not political. That's saving lives. That's being a humanitarian, buddy. It's not political at all. It's about saving human beings' lives. Only a idiotic right-winger will see that as political. Because you all see everything as political.
And what's the real goal? The real goal, of course, is to distract from the giant. The reason we're doing that this week right now, the reason we've upped the ante, is not because the stats show that we should up the ante this week as opposed to like 3 or 4 weeks ago. The reason that we are doing this right now is because Joe Biden needs to redirect away from the gigantic failure we are currently experiencing in Afghanistan.
Okay, it could be both. He could be trying to redirect, but he's also trying to save lives. Right? Nah, I don't like Joe Biden, but this does save lives. So I don't really care too much about his intentions. I would agree with Ben. His intentions are probably not good. I don't like Joe, and he's probably trying to distract from the absolute dismal failure that is Afghanistan. But, yeah.
And the crisis that is likely to materialize over the course of the next week. I hope you...
Okay, so in conclusion, I've pretty much said all my thoughts during the video. My thoughts are, yes, Australia is doing the right thing. They're clamping down before it gets out of control. The deaths are low, but with this new Delta variant, that thing could spike now. The deaths could start spiking. There are a lot more people in the ICU. We don't want to risk it. So Ben saying the deaths are low as an excuse not to lock down is stupid, because the deaths definitely could probably go higher because of this new variant that is in Australia now. And they need to get everyone vaccinated. The vaccination rate is bad. At least he's not saying don't get vaccinated. But he is sort of doing the whole BS freedom argument of, oh, unvaccinated people should get... No, they shouldn't. Period. You're putting other people's lives at risk, knowing that you're doing that. You're taking away other people's freedoms. Why should you get any treatment at all? Nah, that's BS. They shouldn't. So this is a way of saying, if you want to get treatment, get vaccinated. Period. And I agree with that. We need to be doing that kind of stuff. I think Ben didn't have as bad as a take that I thought he was going to have. I thought he was going to go full anti-vaxxer, but I didn't like a lot of his talking points. They didn't make any sense, and as I said, I've explained them throughout the video. There's really not much more to say. If y'all really like the video, please hit like, subscribe, hit the bell button. If you don't like the video, hit the dislike button. Alright. Well, see y'all. Oh, before I say that, leave comments, feedback, getting triggered, liking the thing, whatever it is, leave comments. I like to see people's thoughts. See y'all on the next video.